Hey YouTube, so today I thought we would take a look at emotional thinkers, drama and the narcissist, and why it's important to recalibrate that emotional thinking and recognize it as not a healthy or positive trait. Okay, so jumping straight in. We see a lot of talk in the new year about change, growth, making positive changes, changes for the better, self-betterment, all that kind of thing. Okay, so change, shifts in our personality traits, shifts in things that we do that don't necessarily equal well for ourselves. They take more than just a superficial look at our surface behaviour. We have to dig deep, we have to go back, we have to look within profoundly. It's not just a thing that we can change from the top. Excuse me about the birds, okay? They're determined to play up and ruin my whole video. So change, okay? Emotional thinkers, they're often rash, hurried, immediate thoughts. We're often, if we're emotionally led, we're unable to manage or slow down our emotions, okay? And to think first, we often jump first, think later, or don't even bother, okay? Narcissists, toxic people, pathological liars, they love an emotional thinker. It's a great trait that they scan for, profile for, perform shit tests for, to see if you are more emotionally led than rationally and logically led. Okay, so because if we're emotional thinkers, we react and act on impulse, okay, and we react and act on feelings. We know from a sensible perspective that feelings aren't always real. For example, I can feel someone was being mean to me. I can feel that something's going to happen. I can feel this person's maybe being a bit shady or a bit shifty. They are feelings. They don't mean that it's necessarily real or that that's reality, okay? Emotional thinkers, when something kicks off, especially in the drama community, for example, will use that, or even in real life, if someone comes to us or approaches us with a huge problem. I lost my job, my roommate kicked me out, I've got all these health problems, there's all this bad stuff going on. Emotional thinkers are the type that will jump in and want to fix it for them, because emotional thinkers often go hand in hand with the fixers, the people pleasers, the codependents, right? We are perfect bait for pathological liars, toxic individuals, and of course those pesky narcissists, okay? So when we're talking about change and wanting to do better, often when we're thinking about those changes and we reflect back, we can see that we've often been impulsive and made bad decisions based off of feelings. So when we say, oh, we want to change that, we want to be better and do better, we just think that we're just not going to do that. That's the kind of approach or head-on way we look at it. We're going to try and not do those things. We look at it from a shallow perspective, very superficial. If we are emotional thinkers, if we are the fixers, if we are the people pleasers and the codependents, it requires more self-work, more than just a superficial look to fix those traits. We're probably going to do okay for the short term, but we're just going to revert back to those faulty programming ways, if you like, okay? Because we've not found the reason why we are so emotionally led, or why we think so emotionally and act so impulsively. We've not done any self-work, we've not done any digging, we've not got to the bottom of the cause of those traits or why we behave in those ways. Sorry if I keep looking down, I have notes. So the sob story. If we are the type of person that upon hearing a sob story wants to step into that and fix it and take it on as our own, that's how we identify often that we are one of those emotional thinkers. A rational, more logical and critical approach to dealing with other people's problems would be to give them good advice, to offer kindness and support, to have clear boundaries. So it wouldn't mean rushing in to offer money, It wouldn't mean rushing in to offer them a place to stay with just giving them the keys to your life. Oh yes, you can come and stay with me. It doesn't matter for how long. It doesn't matter that you can't pay. It doesn't matter. Okay. None of those things are the behaviors or ways of a critical or more less, should I say, a less emotionally led person. They're not the fixers. Like we have this idea that the fixers amongst us are the good people, the people that wear their hearts on their sleeves. Okay, we got that way for a reason. Somewhere, something, somehow made us feel that to be good enough, we have to do things for other people to the detriment of ourselves, to the point where we neglect ourselves, don't look after ourselves, all to help and fix this other person. And if you look around, especially on YouTube, we see a magnified perspective of people wanting to fix others and just how long they will hold on to wanting to fix other people. I mean, they will keep no boundaries. They will keep taking slap after slap after slap, virtually. Oh, okay, not really. But there's just no boundaries there. The emotional thinkers, the people pleasers, they tend to not keep any healthy boundaries. They will let people abuse them, hurt them, wrong them over and over and over again. And all it requires is a heartfelt seeming apology, and they're forgiven and allowed back in to the fixer's life, the people pleaser's life, to carry on taking. And the emotional thinker, the people pleaser, the codependent, still doesn't get any boundaries, or it takes them a very long time to learn that all of this is not healthy. So if you've fallen victim to pathological liars, narcissists, toxic people, okay, your emotional thinking needs to change. If you act on impulse, if you hear some drama kick off in the DC, or for example, and you have an immediate emotional reaction, often, okay, to jump in and start giving your opinion and telling people how this is or how that is, it's quite possible that you are one of the emotional thinkers. No one questions how we got the way we did, or that's how it seems, okay? Our programming, I hate to go back to childhood, right? But our programming is implemented from somewhere. The way we come to be as adults, we got it from somewhere. And sometimes we're not even conscious of the things we do or why we do the things we do. This emotional thinking, this need to people please and fix, it didn't happen by accident. We have to go back in time, in my humble opinion, and recognize where we picked that up from. Okay, so for me for example, right, my me going out of my way in my past relationships with friends or partners to not be rejected or to always be perfect so that I wouldn't be rejected, okay? All those needs, that constant fixing, that constant putting up with poor, toxic, awful, cruel behavior, okay, it came from somewhere. I had to find where it came from in order to be able to change. So if we track it back, right, if we go back, recall events and times when maybe we felt from childhood, okay, where we had to prove possibly to a caregiver or a parent that we were good, that we were telling the truth, that it wasn't us, whatever it was we were being accused of. If we can go back to those moments in time, those memories, right, and feel or look at the way we felt at those times, was it often, was it occasional, or was it rare, or was it very common that you were put in a position by a caregiver to feel those types of feelings? It's not an accident that we are the way that we are, that we got the way that we did. It doesn't have to mean that your parents or your caregiver was terrible or abusive. Parents were often busy, missed milestones, missed things, okay? But if we don't track back where this emotional thinking, codependency, people-pleasing traits, if we're not prepared to track back how and where those feelings were first implanted, or where those needs came from to feel that we needed to fix or to keep proving how good we were, okay? Because if we are a people pleaser or a codependent, or a fixer, we have this need to be seen, to be good enough, okay? That we're good, that we're all right people, that we can be, that we're not bad. We have this subconscious need to prove it, okay? And a lot of us will continue on this continuum or cycle throughout life in every different scenario with friends or relationships, constantly trying to prove that we're good enough, that we're good people, that we're worthy, okay? Codependents, people pleasers or fixers, often we can be manipulative, because if you're always trying to do things to keep another person happy with you, that's not you being the real you, is it? Because you're doing things in order to control how you're perceived, rather than being your true authentic self, which is what I was doing the whole time throughout my life. If I look back and reflect, okay, I was always trying to have it be seen that I was a good person. It took me a whole lot of hell to get to this point where I'm more comfortable with people not liking me, not caring for me. I don't care. No, I don't care, because I've healed the wound where that came from. So if someone has a very nasty negative opinion about me, there's no defensiveness rising up. There's no hate or vengeance or revenge or rage or anger, for the most part, rising up, because those wounds have been healed. The same for the fixer, okay? I no longer feel like I need to prove that I'm a good person, because I feel I am a good person, okay? I don't need to force how I want to be seen on other people. If they pick up on those vibes, they pick up on them. If they don't, it's take me or leave me. I'm not on that subconscious journey throughout my life to prove to other people that I'm good, that I'm not a liar, that I'm not fake, that I'm not this, I'm not that. Now I'm more comfortable letting these people think that, okay? And if you look around YouTube, it's like a micro example of society on a grand scale. I think it is. I think it's so fascinating, because the same behaviours that go on in YouTube, they're more, they're bigger, but they represent how we are in society across the world as people. So if we don't go back and track and notice where those feelings were first implanted, that we first started to feel that we had to prove ourselves, or that we wanted to prove ourselves, and the person that we were trying to do it to kept rejecting that idea of us and making us work even harder, okay? That kind of programming isn't healthy, but we continue it throughout life unless we become conscious of it and decide to change it for ourselves independently, okay? So where are we next up to? The constant rejection from my parent or caregiver, okay, caused me to try and bring around situations with friends or partners so that I wouldn't be rejected, okay? I had to heal those issues, but also I had to look at them deeply, why I was like that, okay? There's no getting away from that. Emotional thinkers are how this drama community and how a lot of the world function. In being emotionally led and emotionally reactionary to things that are going on around us or them, okay? The unbalanced knee-jerk reactions often end up being poor decisions, okay? Because we're too fast. We have to learn to go at a slower pace and slow things down, and to introduce logic, rationale, and critical thinking. Okay, we have to learn those new traits to replace the old ones. And that's why I think personally that a lot of people have problems with changing, because they just try to stop doing something, okay, that's like a core programming issue, but they don't override that core programming issue with another healthy way to manage situations that are going to still keep coming up. They just try to not do what they feel they were doing wrong, or that they found that they were doing that was unhealthy or toxic for themselves. We have to replace poor coping skills with healthier coping skills, and there are healthier coping skills out there. For example, this being emotionally led and wearing your heart on your sleeve. We just end up being beacons and markers for predators, okay? If you can identify yourself as an emotional thinker, it might be an idea for you to look at replacing that being so emotionally led with being objective, critical, using logic, engaging logic. Because often, if we've been raised around, I don't know, perhaps trauma or abuse, right? I'll use this example because this relates to me and I can articulate it better. So I was always living in my emotional brain. There was no healthy conversation in my home growing up, okay? We were either screamed at, bawled at, or shouted at, or ordered, okay? So I lived on my nerves or in the emotional part of my brain. So I would react to things naturally from the emotional part of my brain. Now, when things happen, we have a choice, okay? When things happen before us, we have a choice how to feel. If we want to feel angry or sad or hurt or vengeful, we have a choice. There's that space that I've talked about before after something happens where you need to stop, slow things down and think, how do I want to feel about this? Process it using the logic, the critical thinking, being objective and the rationale. Process it and then decide, right, well, what that person did was wrong, but it doesn't require that I unleash a whole load of emotions, okay? I mean, we all have to make that decision for ourselves. I don't want to be up, down, up, down, up, down. You find living like that, you're often tired, exhausted, fed up a lot because you're just constantly reacting to things going on around you. It's not healthy. That's not the way I believe that we were created to be. This wearing our hearts on our sleeve, like we shout that loudly, okay? There is nothing anywhere that states to be an empath or to wear your heart on your sleeve. I mean, even in faith groups, different faiths around the globe, okay, faith encourages us to protect or guard our hearts, i.e. our emotions, okay, because we can be manipulated easily by them, all right? Being so emotionally led, there's nothing healthy about it. I can't get away from it. There's just nothing healthy about it. Being so emotionally reactive is not healthy for your nervous system. It's not healthy for your brain. It's not healthy for yourself, okay? By applying critical thinking, objectivity, rationale and logic into that space of time after something happens, okay, we don't actually, we protect ourselves, right? And then we protect ourselves from predators, because narcissists, pathological liars and toxic individuals use scenarios like I mentioned at the beginning, like being homeless or kicked out or losing their job, because the fixers immediately jump up out of emotion, right, to come and fix their problems. They don't keep boundaries, okay? So they make perfect marks, perfect targets for toxic people. It serves nobody being so emotionally led. Yourself, you put yourself through the ringer. You make yourself a mark for other predators. There's no benefit to being so emotionally led that I can see. You can still have a huge heart. I still engage in humanitarian or charity work or helping other people or caring about the homeless or other people in need. Having boundaries doesn't mean that you care less. It just means that you're careful and you protect yourself. Boundaries mean that you care about yourself enough to protect yourself. That's all that boundaries mean. So all this emotional thinking demonstrates to me people with no boundaries. No boundaries are self-care. It should be a part of all our self-care that we implement boundaries and that we proceed with caution and stop being so emotionally led. And you'll see people around the community firing up lives or making videos out of gut or knee-jerk emotional reactions to things they've witnessed, okay? But what they show us is they make great marks, great targets for toxic people, narcissists and predators. To change being so reactive, and what comes with the reactivity? Look around YouTube, okay? What comes with all that emotional reactivity? Rage, nasty words, cruel things are said, huge nasty reactions, vengeance, people saying things out of revenge because it kickstarts the revenge. They get on the defense, they start grandstanding and putting other people down, the mocking, snickering, mimicking people. All those traits are abusive, right? I don't want to be abusive. I don't want to have abusive traits. I don't want to be being abusive on a daily or weekly basis with other human beings. I will not allow, it's not about other people pulling me out of character. That quote, I mentioned it yesterday in someone's stream, don't treat people as bad as they are, treat them as good as you are, okay? So me not liking somebody and witnessing them doing horrible things doesn't mean that I get to be cruel and horrible to them, all right? Because if I'm over here saying, oh, well, I'm not a cruel person, I'm not a vengeful person, I wouldn't dream of doing this, I wouldn't dream of doing that, but then a situation or a scenario pops up and out of emotion, I start reacting, doing things out of vengeance or out of rage or out of anger or out of all this emotion. What's going on? What's going on? I will treat people as good as I am, not as bad as how they are. Like we hear a lot, oh, an eye for an eye, or well, they did it first. There's always excuses, awful behaviour. Like, I don't understand that thinking. I think it is toxic. I don't think it's healthy. I don't think it's morally right, okay? Because you can't be over there saying you're a good person, but the second somebody does something that you don't like, or that triggers you, or that hurts you, then you get to act and then absolve it, because you just get to say, well, they did this first, they did that first. That doesn't make sense to me. You're either a better person, when you operate from a higher frequency, you don't care about these lower frequencies. This is what it's about. Like, I keep hearing people say, oh, but she does that and she does this and nobody's calling it out, nobody's making them accountable. You can't force people to be accountable. It's not your job. That's where our healthy boundaries come in. It's not your responsibility or anybody's responsibility to force toxic or hateful or people doing cruel things. It's not our job to force them to be accountable, right? You can either spend your whole life trying to get all these bad people to be accountable and responsible for their actions, or you can operate on your own frequency, right, and do your own thing around people that aren't that way. Two choices. And what do we see around these YouTube communities? People like make it incumbent upon themselves to be the one to keep calling out the bad behaviour. I have a different way of looking at it. Possibly other people do, right? It's not my focus, because what you focus on, you magnify and you make bigger. And when we keep calling out all this bad behaviour, all that happens is more people flood to their channel. They get more exposure. They get victimhood, okay? Because it looks like everyone's bullying them, making constant videos about them out of emotions, all right? It doesn't change anything. It's like that saying, focus on what you can change, not on what you can't, okay? I would prefer to be around healthy-minded people operating throughout this life on the same level of frequency. I don't mean we're higher than them, or they're lower than me, or they're lower, you know, I don't mean anything like that. All people operate on a different frequency level. We all have our own different level of consciousness that we function from. Trying to make someone that dabbles in toxicity and cruel behaviour come up to your frequency, that's toxic itself, because then you are saying, then where I am is better than where you are, and you need to come and join me and come on to my level of thinking and do things my way, okay? Leave people. Let the ones that come to you be the ones that come to you. Don't try and force all these other people that do awful things to do things how you want them to do. That for me, that's like a control issue. Fair enough calling odd things out that seem awful or mean, but when it becomes a pattern that you're trying to force somebody to be how you want them to be, I don't see that's healthy. I see that as someone that's fixating on negative, nasty toxicity that they're never going to be able to change, instead of focusing on all the good or the nice, kind, caring people around that are operating on the same frequency as you. Don't even know if this video has made the blindest bit of sense. We will see. But if you made it this far, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you're all well. Please stay safe. This whole C19 thing is frightening me so bad. I'm so scared. Stay safe, everybody. Love lots. See you all next time. Bye for now.